Here are a few shorter incidences that can't be made into very detailed stories. I once saw a deer mother bite one of her fawns by the head and start shaking it violently until its neck snapped. She then dropped it to the ground and nudged it a couple times, as if she didn't quite understand what she had done. Didn't stay to observe because I was a bit freaked out. Found a dead deer lying next to a tree. Markings on the tree, coupled with markings on the deer's head, suggested that it had rammed its head into the tree's trunk until it died. Took a blood sample. Completely healthy. Stumbled upon a fresh kill in the winter. A deer with half its face/neck missing. A large hole in its abdomen with guts hanging out. As I poke the wound in order to check the temperature, the fucking thing lets out a yelp and rises to its feet. In complete disbelief, as this bloody mess turns its head to look at me and starts walking away calmly. Collapses after about 10 meters and doesn't get back up.
Have you read that American story where a guy and his dad go to hunt and see a deer smash his head on a rock and start licking its brains? Reminded me of that. Why is it always deers though? Maybe they are easier to possess by whatever the fuck was doing it to them.
The strange deer behavior could have a rational explanation. It could have been some kind of prion disease like mad cow's disease. There's one in North America called chronic wasting disease that affects deer, and early symptoms are strange behavior, as it's literally eating holes in their brains. That's not to say it was this specific disease, but could have been something similar. And back in the 90s they wouldn't have known to test for it, as it's fairly recent.
Yeah, but 5 deer collectively mauling a bear? How the fuck does that happen?
This will be the last for me for now. I am pretty tired, and it's exhausting to relive all these horrible memories. I may post more tomorrow, but for now I'll leave you with this. I had been seeing a girl for a couple weeks. For some reason she found my job hot and thought I was some sort of macho dude. Went along with it because she was hot. She also hooked up Peter with one of her friends. She lived in one of the fancier houses in town, with a nice view of the forest from her living room. We decided to have a double date at her house, where we could watch a movie and eat dinner. Of course, it didn't take long before Peter went to the guest room with his girl. I decided not to waste time either and started sexy time as well. At this point, I admit that I neglected my duties a bit. Peter and I hadn't even been in the forest that month, and hadn't responded to any calls regarding sick animals or poachers. We had gotten caught up in our own personal lives. It honestly felt nice to get a break from the work, seeing as we weren't exactly ever off duty. We fell asleep on the couch in the living room. At some point during the night, I woke up. It was a beautiful, starry night. Walked up to the glass door leading to the terrace in order to get a better view of the sky. After a few minutes, I spot something in the distance. The faint glow of eye shine from something staring intensely at me. I froze in place and observed this unknown creature as it slowly started walking towards me. When it got within the light emanating from the house, it revealed itself to be a medium-sized red stag. It just kept walking towards me, never blinking or taking its eyes off me. It walked directly into the glass, which seemed to puzzle it. It started nudging the glass, which turned into violent pushing. At this point, I started backing away, still in complete disbelief as what was transpiring in front of me. Girlfriend wakes up to the loud banging on the glass.
What the fuck is going on, Anon?
She asks, still half asleep. Before I can answer her, the stag starts letting out these guttural screams as it intensifies its ramming. It breaks through the glass. Girlfriend screams and Peter comes running down the stairs to see what's going on. The stag just calmly walks up to me, like it hasn't broken through a glass door. Keeps letting out those horrible noises as it just approaches me. I tried backing up, but I stepped in some glass and fell over on my ass. The stag just observed me with unflinching eyes as it kept bellowing. Girlfriend was still screaming. I'm suddenly deafened by the sound of Peter unloading his small sidearm. Hit the stag multiple times, but mainly missed, leading to a lot of property damage. The stag falls to the floor with a wet thud. To this day, I'm still grateful to Peter for bringing his gun. Girlfriend broke up with me the next day. She said that either I was cursed or unlucky. Either way, she didn't want anything to do with me. I still always sleep with my blinds shut. I never want to see another window into the night, especially when I know what might be on the other side of that glass. I may have ignored the forest, but it certainly didn't ignore me. I have returned. I will share a couple more stories with you. I once found myself lost with Peter in a snowstorm. We were basically as fucked as we could ever be, with no shelter or any way to start a fire. Snow was falling so densely that we couldn't see more than a few meters in front of us. Wind was so cold that my lips started bleeding. We drove around for what felt like an eternity, until we came upon an old, decrepit hunting cabin. We had difficulty dismounting our ATVs because our clothes were frozen solid. I still remember how Peter was shaking and clacking his teeth. The cabin was completely empty, but had a simple fireplace and some semi-dry wood. As we sat there, slowly warming by the fire, we had a moment of absolute dread when we realized that we might actually fucking die. We had no idea how long the storm would last, and there wasn't a whole lot of wood for us to burn. Peter then rose to his feet and muttered, "Fuck it. Wait here, Annan." He went outside and returned a few minutes later with an axe. For a brief second, I legitimately wondered if he was going to put me out of my misery. To my relief, he started beating the ever-loving shit out of the floorboards. "Use this as firewood. Should keep the fire going for a little while longer. Bless you, Peter, and your demented brain." In the end, we probably burned about half of the cabin's floor, which revealed more and more of the cold dirt underneath. And of fucking course, there happened to be the remains of a couple people down there. We were waiting out the storm, stuck in a fucking murder cabin. The remains looked very old, fortunately, just dusty skeletal remains. Seriously debated whether or not we should leave or stay. Decided to stay because we'd have a better chance of survival against a psycho Russian killer than the storm. At one point, I swear we heard someone approaching the cabin, only to run away into the wilderness. Makes no sense, because only a mentally deranged mongoloid would have the balls to wander around out here. Then again, we were in a cabin with corpses under the floorboards. We sat with our rifles ready just in case. After a long while, the storm started winding down. We emerged from the cabin, dug our ATVs out of the snow, and made our way back to town. Navigating was a lot easier now that we could see where we were going. Immediately went to the police station. They were surprised to see us since they had already reported us missing or dead. We told them about the cabin and agreed to show them the way the next day. I slept for about 14 hours after soaking in a tub of hot water. Best sleep I ever had. We met up with the officers and led them through the forest to the cabin. It was fucking gone. There was no trace to be found of it whatsoever. The trails left behind from our ATVs were still very clear, and even the spot where we dug them out, but the cabin was just not there. There was a clear area where it had been, but there was nothing but a fresh layer of snow. The officers looked irritated and said we were wasting their time. They said we must have been hallucinating or that we drank too much of Peter's homebrew. It still makes no sense to me. Never found an explanation. Peter and I had been on one of our excursions in early autumn when we came across a panicked hunter. He begged us to help his friend who had been attacked by a bear further up the trail. He drove with us up to where the incident had occurred, but it was already too late. His friend was fucked up beyond belief. Face ripped off, gutted, and limbs bending in unnatural positions. Almost threw up at the sight. We decided that this bear was too dangerous to be left alive, since it was roaming fairly close to town. We started looking for tracks to get an idea of where it was headed. The hunter was just sitting up against a tree, too shocked to react to what was going on. He kept describing the creature as a bear when we asked him. The thing is, we only found deer tracks at the scene. Against our better judgment, we started tracking the fucker. I swear there was a constant stream of cold sweat running down my back while we hunted this nasty motherfucker. Would honestly rather have been tracking a bear at this point. We reached a clearing at some point where we found a piece of the guy's face hanging from a thorny bush. We were shitting enough bricks to build a new Berlin Wall at this point, but we trekked on. We finally caught sight of the fucker. It wandered aimlessly around in circles, almost like its internal compass was fucking up. This time, I was the one who shot it. Couldn't let Peter have all the fun. Hit it in the head. Instant death. Chunks of flesh were still hanging from its antlers. We had to collect the individual pieces and put them in a plastic bag so that we could deliver it to the morgue with the rest of the body. We gagged as we did it. It was so fucking horrible. Ended up driving the shocked hunter back with us so that he could deliver his testimony. "Why did you tell us it was a bear?" Peter asked him. "You would have never believed me," he answered. "If only you knew." Peter and I were hanging out in his apartment one night, sharing stories and drinking. Sat out on his small balcony and smoked when we got a call from the police station. There had been strange sightings of a large animal, presumably a bear, roaming the area. Some locals were pretty spooked and had reported it to the police. Of course, it fell under our jurisdiction. We decided that we would check it out in the morning. We didn't feel like chasing some large, unidentified creature while we were half drunk and the sun had gone down. Sit for a few more minutes, just chatting, when a deafening screech echoed out from beyond the tree line. We were silent for a couple of minutes. "Fuck me, that was loud," Peter said. "No shit, jackass." We decided to check it out. Operation Half-Drunk Russians Packing Heat commenced. We wandered around aimlessly, randomly pointing our flashlights and rifles around in the dark. "You've got to be fucking kidding me," Peter shouted out. He had found large, cloven footprints. "Don't tell me this is another fucking deer, I swear to God." He sounded both angry and scared shitless, rustling behind us. We both instantly turn and aim at the sound. 2 glowing eyes reflect our flashlights. It lets out a loud fucking squeal and charges at us. We both light it the fuck up while we shit our pants. It's a boar. A fucking boar. But it was so fucking big that we initially thought it was a bear. Pick related is eerily similar to the bastard we shot. "At least it wasn't a fucking deer," I said. Peter let out a nervous laugh and shook his head in awe of the fucking beast lying before us. Honestly, didn't know what to do with it. We hadn't brought our ATVs and the thing was way too heavy to carry. Decided to just leave it, for the wolves to scavenge. Police actually believed us this time. Some of the hogs out there can grow to enormous sizes. You're lucky it didn't get you. Another thing to worry about. Fucking great. Most people don't know this, but there are loads of unmapped or unexplored cave systems all around Russia. This is also the case where I lived. It wasn't uncommon for Peter and I to stumble upon a cave or two while we were on our excursions. Lots of local legends surround the caves, like an underground city of subterranean people, covens of witches, prehistoric animals, and so on. Whatever the case, I always found cave systems fascinating. It's like entering a new world where the same rules don't apply. So when the police mounted a rescue team to help a teenager who had been trapped in one of our caves, I didn't hesitate to volunteer. At this point, Peter and I were respected and well liked with the police. They trusted us and included us in some of their work. Peter didn't come along this time because he was too hungover. As the case stood, 2 teenage boys had tried to explore a local cave system that had some very steep drop-offs. One of the boys had lost his footing and tumbled down into the darkness. He was still alive, but had broken his ankle and couldn't get out. Rather than getting stuck himself, his friend had chosen to send for help. We made our way through the cave, making sure to watch our steps. The cave floor was damp and covered with algae, so it wasn't a surprise that the boy had slipped. When we came to the drop-off, we shined our lights down at him. He waved and smiled, knowing he was saved. I started descending the steep rock wall, with a rope tied at my waist. When I reached the bottom, I secured the boy to the rope and gave the officers the signal to start pulling him up. "He went that way," the boy said to me, and pointed to a narrow passageway at the back of the cave. "Excuse me?" I asked, wondering if he had hit his head on the way down. "My friend, he came back for me, and he told me he found an exit that way." I was confused, but told him, "Your friend is up there with the others." His face went completely pale on the spot. "But he was down here with me. He went that way." An uneasy feeling hit me, which I tried to ignore. Now I was stuck at the bottom of this small chasm until they threw down the rope again. And this kid claims that someone was down here with him, even though his friend had gone straight to the police. I felt very exposed, and kept focusing on the narrow passage at the back of the cave. I point my flashlight to the ground, and find fucking footprints leading into the passage. Fucking bare feet. Fuck. Just as I'm unloading a metric fuck ton of bricks, they throw the end of the rope back down and hit me right on my shoulder. I let out a shriek of terror, that those bastards never let me live down. As they pulled me up, I refused to look back down. Got the fuck out of there as fast as possible. Fuck whatever was down there. Oh boy. Blednica? If you find traces of narrow footprints that women have, don't follow them. Blednica leads you deep into the forest and then you'll be eaten by all kinds of animals. If you see her, hunt something down, even a mouse, and burn it near a forest or house and ask her for help. I don't know how to translate Blednica, sorry. One of our biggest problems with poachers was that they would sometimes leave behind these heavy-duty, rusty bear traps. Pick related for reference. Sometimes they never came back down for them, which meant that some parts of the forest could potentially be a minefield of broken ankles. Sometimes we would find rotting carcasses that had been trapped in one and left to die. I once almost stepped in one, but Peter noticed the chain in time to stop me. Thanks again, buddy. One time we came across one of these bear traps which had been sprung. Left in the trap was a boot, with the foot still attached. The rest of the body was gone. Large pool of blood left behind, along with bloody pieces of fabric. From what we could see, it looked like someone had gotten stuck and then had his foot amputated. We followed the blood trail, but found no body. He must have been with the friend who drove him out of here. The ironic part is that the bear traps are fairly easy to break out of, if you know which pin to pull. Poor guy lost his foot because of some dumbass poacher. Took the foot with us and asked around in the police station. They hadn't had any reports of people getting fucked up by bear traps. This guy didn't even go to a hospital. This meant that he had either been a poacher himself or just one tough son of a bitch. Never found him or heard about him since then. Still, finding a severed foot is never nice, especially when you know the type of shit that's out there. Hello everyone, I just want to say thank you for listening. Make sure to like the video if you enjoyed this story, and subscribe if you want to hear more in the future. Click the bell icon in order to be alerted for whenever I have new stories to tell, and until then, don't follow the footsteps into the cave.